guys, I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and I'm up with two of the coolest smartphones in the world, in the universe. Well, at least in the United States. The Apple iPhone 4, the Google Nexus S, one's running Android, one's running iOS. We think it has 1 GHz processor, but iOS 4.2, 5 megapixel camera, one of the hottest touchscreen devices in the world, not to mention the United States. And then of course you have the Google Nexus S, newcomer to the market, but awesome with a 1 GHz processor, Android 2.3, 4-inch display, and more. We're going to pit them together in a dogfight. Who will win? Well, we don't know, because they're both awesome devices. Special thanks to our friends at Best Buy Mobile for hooking us up with two of these, total of 4 for use on One Paw Bandit giveaway. One thing I like about Best Buy Mobile, you walk out working, so whether you buy the Google Nexus S, the Apple iPhone 4, they hook you up and make sure you walk out working. Enough of that. Let's get into the dogfight. Which one's going to take the cake? Android or iOS? Both of these devices have 5 megapixel cameras, and both have front-facing cameras for video calling capabilities. The iPhone FaceTime, and then you can use things like Quick or Fring, and a couple other options in the Android market. With this one, nothing comes on it out of the box, but there are downloads available. Let's take a look at those rear cameras. Both are 5 megapixel. The editing options are obviously a little bit different, and the editing options are few and far between on the iPhone 4. That said, it does have HDR support, so you can turn HDR off or you can turn it on. And you know, as you saw, if you watch the Apple keynote, HDR, it takes 2 pictures, an HDR picture and a non-HDR picture, and you can decide which one you like the best. I usually find that I like the HDR picture. That said, you know, there have been some times where I don't. I opt for the picture that I took. Let's take a picture of this Google. Recommended on Google. And you can see, I don't know if you're gonna see all the changes, but you can see when we look at that, saving HDR, then we'll go back in. And it'll show the HDR version. Yes, I know that. Dismiss. And you can see non-HDR, HDR. So you can see the red, kind of an orangey in the original picture where it's a little bit more red. In this one, so in this case, I would definitely go with the HDR. But you know, the camera's not really showing it off. But I mean, just the Google logo, a bunch of different colors in the logo, obviously. And you can really see those colors. Absolutely beautiful, very vibrant. And then I will show you another picture, actually, of my cat, Mittens Baker. And this was taken, Mittens Baker was sitting on the counter, and you can see this was a non-HDR picture, but just very clear, very easy to see. And Mittens Baker was shown off in her full glory. So you have that. Let's take a look. And not to say that the Samsung camera is not great. Samsung does a really good job with their cameras, all the 5 megapixel cameras on the Galaxy S line and on the Nexus S have been fantastic. And you can see the colors there. So very clean. That Super AMOLED display makes it pop. And it looks good. I have to give the slight edge just on the camera quality to the iPhone 4. That said, you know, this is an excellent alternative. And if you've seen my reviews between like this and the G2 or this and the MyTouch 4G, I've crowned this one the winner several times in the camera contest because it's really great. But you know, I have to give a minor or slight edge to the iPhone 4. That said, you do have editing options in this one, whereas you don't have those outside of Flash and HDR in the iOS 4. So little things like that to keep in mind. But one thing I really have to highlight is less of the oh, you saw the NFC. This is an NFC tag, so as soon as I lay it down, it picks up the tag. But back to what I was saying. One thing I have to give Android credit for is there's a lot of integration. Like, let's go back into the camera and just pick that picture out, for example. And I hit share, and it knows which programs I have installed from the Android market. I have TweetDeck installed, I have Facebook, and then Picasa comes, you know, pre-installed on it, messaging, things of that nature. So obviously, when I go into like a gallery picture on iOS 4 or the iPhone 4, I can click that and I can email it, I can MMS, I can assign it, you know, use as wallpaper, but it's very stock. So if I install Twitter, I install TweetDeck, I install anything, there's no button that pops up on the iPhone 4. There's a lot of integration on this one, and they do a really good job when I install TweetDeck or Twitter or whatever it's called, and or Seismic, whatever. Those automatically pop up in this list. So it's a wonderful integration, and very much it reminds me a lot of the BlackBerry platform because the integration is just fantastic. And once you install those programs, I can say send to TweetDeck, bam, it's ready to go. Whereas this one, there's that added step of going into TweetDeck, selecting the picture there. So you know, for me, again, that's a big thing, and it's nice to have that integration, and it goes back to kind of notifications as well. It's just a clean, easy to use operating system, at least on that front. You know, on the other fronts, it's still a little bit complicated, but when it comes to the integration, it's fantastic. And next to last, App Store market. You look at the Android market versus the Apple's App Store, and obviously, you know, there's some differences just in the raw size or the raw number of applications. You have about 300,000 applications in the App Store. You have about 100,000 in the Android market. That aside, you know, there's some great apps in both of these markets, and I find that even though there are 300 apps in the App Store, a lot of them are junk apps, whereas 100,000 in the Android market I feel like are a little bit more quality. That said, you know, they've obviously had some time since 2007 to really develop their App Store and you know, make it look clean and, again, very intuitive, very easy to use, and organized pretty well. Let's jump into the Nexus S. This one hasn't actually updated to the new Android market, but you can see, let me see if my G2 is powered on. No, it's not. The battery's dead, but I was going to show you the new Android market. But here's the older one, and you know, and of course you have those typical, you know, grouped by category, all applications. You have that as well on in the Android market. Top free, just in, top paid. So I go to top free, scroll up and down through those. Google Maps, Pandora, etc. And then I can do the same thing in the App Store and in Apple's App Store. I can scroll up and down. But, you know, again, really big kudos to the Android market. You know, on Android 2.2 and up, you have the ability to auto-download updates. So when you download 10 apps, let's say, and they're ready for an update, you can enable it to where, you know, barring a couple of apps, some require manual updating, but you can set it to where when there are updates available, it automatically downloads. With the App Store, you'll see, for example, I have one update available right now, and it just gives me this big red 1 icon, and that continues to go up as I have apps available to, or as I have updates available. With this one, you can set it to automatically update, which is incredible, and it saves this obnoxious. Again, the notification system just really needs to be updated on iOS. It's just a little bit old. And you can see my one update on iOS is linked in. So I can click that. I can update all, which is a nice touch. But there are little frustrations, like when I click update all, it's going to bring up my iTunes ID, and it's going to ask for my password. I mean, really, I can understand asking if it's a paid app, or even if it's a free app that's maybe PG-13 or up, or something of that nature. But really, downloading updates, I don't really see a need for the Apple ID. Whereas with this one, you know, you don't have to, once you enter in your Gmail account, you don't have to re-enter that again unless you're, and you don't really see it again unless you're paying for apps. And in that case, it does bring it back up. So, you know, something to keep in mind. There are a lot of things on this one that I do like, or in Android in general that I do like, that, you know, I really wish iOS would implement, or Apple would implement on the in a future version of iOS. You know, that said, again, you know, the marketplace on the iOS platform is, you know, 300,000 apps, 100,000 apps, a little bit bigger, but, you know, bigger isn't always best. So there are a lot of things on Android that work much better. Let's take a look at speed test before we go. And I think I have speed test. Yeah, I do have it on this one. To get an idea, T-Mobile HSPA Plus versus AT&T 3G. Not an HSPA. I'm sorry, T-Mobile HSPA, not an HSPA Plus device. So we'll wait for these to load up. Make sure they're on the Charlotte server. Charlotte. GPS is, you know, very quick to lock on with both of these devices. Android, especially Samsung, has had some issues with the Galaxy S line, and you know, these have been fantastic, both of these devices. But, you know, a quick download speed, 3,947 to let's see what the AT&T one comes up with. Looks to be about 2.7 megabits per second to about 3.9 megabits per second. So obviously, you know, T-Mobile rocked that one off in the speed test, at least. Then the upload speeds, 907 kilobits per second, about 650 kilobits per second, roughly, on the upload on the iPhone 4. So, you know, again, speed tests, T-Mobile's rocking it out. That said, you know, I find the AT&T's to be a little bit more consistent. It's, you know, usually in that 2.5 to 3 megabits per second range, somewhere in there, whereas this one jumps up and down depending on network traffic. Like I've seen this one, I'll run a third test and it'll be 1.7 megabits per second, then it'll jump back to 4,000. But that's phenomenal. And given that it's not an HSPA Plus device, those are really, really good speeds. Let's see, 2.17 megabits per second. And you can see the upload would be about 0.70 megabits per second. So, you know, on the speed test front, crown the winner, Google Nexus S. So it's a tough call, you know, between these devices. You know, you have a wonderful device here, a great device here as well. wonderful ecosystem on this device with iTunes, with the App Store out of the box. I can download music using my iTunes ID. I can download apps, whereas there's really no ecosystem outside of the Android market. If I want to download music, I have to do it through a third party, bring it over on a micro SD card. Well, actually not on the Nexus S because there's no micro SD card slot, but bring it over, using the USB cable. There's no real ecosystem, whereas with this, I can download straight from iTunes. I can download an app immediately. So the ecosystem is much better on this device, and it's something that I complimented Windows Phone 7 on, because with the Zune platform, it's very easy. They're working on a baby ecosystem, that iOS has developed and has done a really good job at or Apple rather, has done a really good job at over the course of almost 4 years. So, I have to give them credit for that. But no, it really boils down to what you want. If you want better notifications, you want widget support, you can see these widgets up here. You have these in Android, you do not have those on the iPhone. Something to keep in mind there. If you want that, this is your device. If you want, an ecosystem, you want the instant ability to download music without an issue, you want an amazing web browser, a great music player, go with the iPhone 4. It's all dependent on what you want. A little bit better camera, not by much though, go with the iPhone 4. That said, I can't, in a dogfight, we have to crown a winner, and I'm giving the slight edge to the iPhone 4, just because I think from a consumer perspective, this appeals to more people. In this business, it's all about which phone appeals to the highest number of people. I'd have to say the iPhone 4 does. It appeals to the first-time smartphone buyer, even all the way up to the advanced buyer. There's a lot to like in the iPhone 4. Not to say that there's not in the Nexus S, but I think for a first-time smartphone buyer, the stock build of Android is still a little rough around the edges. There's no ecosystem, so for a music buff, it's going to be a little bit harder to get your music on this versus on the iPhone 4, where out of the box you get that iTunes support. But that said, there are a lot of frustrations I have. The notifications are terrible on iOS. That blue box that pops up is old, it gets annoying, and there are a lot of other issues. No widget support. But that said, the trade-off between the widget support, you get better battery life. So I use this for 2 days straight and can make it on a charge. I haven't charged this since Tuesday night, and I'm still at 52% with moderate use. Whereas I charged this one and I'm at 46% as of yesterday afternoon. I charged it around 2 o'clock. So something to keep in mind. Battery life is better on the iPhone 4. Should you get that trade-off? No real multitasking. You do have kind of a abridged version of it down here, but no real multitasking like you do on Android. No widgets, and the notification system is worse. That said, I think for the iPhone 4 is the best for the greatest number of people, at least. And it has a wide following, a high number of apps in the App Store. So it's a tough call, but I have to give it just ever so slightly to the iPhone 4. Much more coverage to come on both the Google Nexus S and the Apple iPhone 4 on PhoneDog.com. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/PhoneDog. We're giving away devices all the time. We're giving away up to 100 iPads in PhoneDog's 100 tablet giveaway, where we're giving away your choice of an iPad, a Galaxy Tab, or a BlackBerry Playbook. We're giving away one for every 5,000 people that like us. It's pretty cool. The odds are good. Be sure to like us, Facebook.com/PhoneDog. Of course, be sure to follow me on Twitter. Tell me I'm the craziest person ever because I chose the iPhone just ever so slightly over the Nexus S, or it's the smartest move I've ever made in my professional wireless career. Whatever the case, let me know. PhoneDog_Aaron. Thanks so much for watching. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for more coverage. We'll see you next time.